Roberto Alagna and Bryn Tervel, singing the famous duet from The Pearl Fishers by Bizet. James Levine conducted the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. Michael, with the range of performances you've given in the theatre and on TV, you'll have made people laugh and you'll have made people cry. What's better as the performer?
Oh, I mean, I think there's equal value. Laughter is a healer. Laughter is the most wonderful healer, and I love the thought that people can go out feeling better than when they came in to a theatre, or having changed their life positively in some way or another. But when I played Phantom, to move people, to hear silence in a theatre is a wondrous sound, and a very powerful sound. And the sound, when you're singing a song like Music of the Night, and at the very end, you sing "It's over now, the music of the night," and there's a moment of absolute silence, and then the orchestra powers in, and you've inhabited that man for the evening. I mean, I do take my work quite seriously. It's quite boring sometimes, but it was a wonderful. It was wonderful inhabiting that character for.
You do take your work seriously, and that comes across. Why do you suppose it is in your profession that to be a perfectionist is in some way sneered at? If you're a sports coach, you want perfection and everybody accepts it. If you're on the stage and someone's a perfection, people moan about it. Why do you suppose that is?
I don't know. I mean, I'd been that way. I'd always wanted to be really good at something if I was going to do it, because I was so bad at so many other things. So I guess coming from a child that just couldn't do anything and got bad marks for everything, that when I'd found something that I could do, I really wanted to do it well. Not at all costs. I mean, one of my favourite words, if not my favourite word in life, is compassion. And so I don't believe in being in ruthlessness at all. I think you take people along a journey with you. There's nothing better than working as a team. In whatever job we do, it's wonderful to be able to go into work and say, "Hi, morning, how are you?" And everybody's ready to go. You're not going to feel 100% every day, but when you're not, the others will pick you up, or you will pick other people up, and that's special in life. And so I've always hoped to strive for that kind of approach.
So that sort of juvenile bungling incompetence, that was Frank Spencer?
I suppose it could have been. I wasn't aware of it when I played it. I played that as an innocent.
Do you still love Frank? Was he a burden?
No. It could have been, had I stayed with it, I think. And when people still come up to you now and go, "How's Betty, all right, Mike?" I say, yes, she couldn't make it tonight. It's cooking the supper or something. You just say something silly. But it's amazing that how many years is it? 70? It's nearly 40 years. And people still watch it. I was influenced by Laurel and Hardy, by Buster Keaton, by people of...
What comedy makes you laugh? What makes Michael Crawford laugh?
Modern comedy.
Or any comedy.
Gavin and Stacey. I like that very much. I thought that was very cleverly done, and honestly done again, see. I thought the characters were well drawn and really well performed. And that's the thing, you've got to have decent actors playing all those other parts.
Where do you suppose Frank Spencer would be now?
I don't know, I thought about that the other day too. I thought if he did come, if you did like a Children in Need or something, and you came on and did a sketch, I suppose it could be done, but and I suppose I wouldn't be averse to doing that, but it would have to be really cleverly written.
Is this a message to Richard Curtis? Is this what we're hearing?
Well, Richard, I'm sure it was Richard that suggested it some time ago. I'm sure it was he who suggested it, and I said, no, I didn't want to do it, because I was most probably in the middle of something else. It's like, we're doing Wizard of Oz now, and you can't just sort of go off and become involved. It would be a whole new project for me.
We shall see.
I mean, I have to rehearse cleaning my teeth. I just...
We're going to talk a lot about your work and your friendship with Andrew Lloyd Webber. Let's start that off by you introducing a piece of music that the first thing I think he heard you performing it was with Ian Adam, and he didn't even know it was you.
Oh no, I was attempting to sing Carousel-V, Handel's Carousel-V, and Ian was determined that I would perfect this piece, and unfortunately he passed away, and I still hadn't perfected it. Bless his heart. But I sang this one day and finished my lesson, and I left, and into the room came Andrew Lloyd Webber and Sarah Brightman, who'd been waiting downstairs in the kitchen underneath the studio. And Andrew burst in and said, who was that? And he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Andrew. It was Michael Crawford." He said, "He's really going to get better. I know he is, you know." And he said, No. I think we may have found our phantom." And unbeknownst to me, I then get a phone call, and I went along and started to sing Phantom for Andrew.
Interview tonight. Michael, let's talk about when you first started to work with Andrew Lloyd Webber. Am I right, the first time you go out for supper with him, you suggest a restaurant that doesn't meet with his seal of approval?
Well, I thought he came to see, I was doing Barnum at the Victoria Palace, and I think he wanted to see if Sarah and I hit it off, and because he'd been to see Barnum and enjoyed it, and said, maybe we should meet for dinner and see how you and Sarah get on, and the rest of it. So I said, okay, well, but we should go somewhere where it's very discreet, because otherwise they'll be on to us. And he said, yes, I couldn't agree more. So I said, I'll take care of it, I'll book it. And that's how I book it in this little Italian place around the corner. And I really didn't know Andrew at all. So I had no idea that he was such a sort of, well, not a fussy eater, but he's kind of connoisseur of food. And I wasn't. And so I took him to this little bistro around the corner, and he was appalled. I could see by his face something was upsetting him as we walked in the door. We sat in the window of this restaurant in Victoria Street, and we were the only people in. He said, "Well, I can understand why." He said, "This is ridiculous," and he's never forgotten it. He brings it up every time we meet. He brings this restaurant, my choice of restaurants.
And didn't you also commit the cardinal sin of ordering 2 fish courses
yes.
at another meal?
Yes, he took me to the Carlton Tower restaurant, and I ordered fish as a starter, and then I ordered fish as a main course. I didn't know this was against the law. I like fish, so I ordered, and he said, "Well, you've had fish for both courses." And I said, "But at least," it wasn't in Victoria, was it? I said, "We had it here. It was good fish. I mean, excellent food here."
Dear, oh dear. Happy back working with him now, though, of course, I'm sure.
Yes, it was.
Tell us a bit about Wizard of Oz.
Well, I mean, to me, I've been away for 5-6 years from the theatre. To come back and see what is available now, technically, is mind-blowing to me. And to me, the hero of this piece as a visual is Rob Jones, who's the designer. I mean, to bring a child, or not bring a child, to come as an adult and see this extraordinarily beautiful production is mind-blowing. I haven't seen it all. I've only seen bits and pieces because we're in it, so we don't get the chance. But whenever there's a dress run of somebody going into the show, we run out as much as we can and watch it. We've got a twister scene in this, a hurricane thing, which is a tornado, which is amazing, and you think things are flying around behind you. So I'm blown away by.
And I think it's thanks to your lovely grandchildren, in a way, that you were sort of prompted to do it. Is that fair?
Yes, I suppose after New Zealand I wasn't really looking to come back, because I thought if this brings any more stress or to me, I don't want to relapse and become ill again. So Andrew called me and asked me if I'd be interested in The Wizard of Oz, and I said, well, let me have time to think about it, and I'll absorb it. So immediately I got the film and got the book and read everything I could about it, and went off to Sicily for a 10-day holiday with my grandchildren and my family. while I was there, I really got to know my grandchildren, because they were now 14, and before they'd been 7 and 8, and they really weren't, they'd never seen me work, not live work in the theatre. And I thought this would be, we had such fun. I wasn't the miserable grumps that I had been by saying, eat your broccoli, sit up straight, Charlie, put that knife and fork down. They'd had enough of that. They didn't really like him. So I was much more fun in Sicily, and was doing back somersaults into the pool and showing off and suffering at night, but they didn't see that. And then I'd come and show off the next day and kidding them that I was in the Secret Service for 20 years, and it was wonderful, these stories. So I got more and more into thinking, this really does sound like The Wizard. And so when I got back, I said, yeah, let's meet up and talk about it. And it's not an enormous part. It's part of the team. You've got the three friends. You've got Dorothy, the Wicked Witch, the Good Witch, and the Wizard, and they're all great characters.
Another piece of music, your association with Andrew Lloyd Webber, I think, P.A. Jesu.
Yes, I think he has a great affinity with church music, and I love church music, and his P.A. Jesu is quite lovely.
The P.A. Jesu from Andrew Lloyd Webber's Requiem. The choir boys were accompanied by the English chamber players and singers, directed by Martin Neary on Classic FM. Michael, we talked about how it was that your family holiday helped prompt you to return to the stage to play the Wizard in The Wizard of Oz, and your ex-wife Gabrielle came with you on that holiday. Now, very few people enjoy the sort of relationship with ex-partners that you appear to. Why do you suppose that is?
Because we have a friendship, and we've I don't know, we of course at the time of a divorce it's not too friendly, but otherwise you wouldn't be divorced. But
and you've said in the past that's one of your biggest regrets, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but I do believe in life gives us things, and we pass through them when we move on, and we're better people for it, hopefully. If I was asked the question, if I had to change decisions that I'd made, I wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't?
No, I wouldn't.
Because you once wrote that the unfortunate breakup was the biggest regret of your life. That.
Yes.
And you almost confessed, I understand.
It is, because I think your personal life has got to be what you are is first and foremost in your life. The greatest success I've had in my life are 2 daughters, and
But suddenly you're a weekend dad feeding your daughters nettle soup.
Yes.
As a result of
they're hard years. I mean, they're hard years for the youngsters, and for my ex-wife, and for myself. Yeah, it was a lonely time. And I suppose it's made me very nervous about ever going near marriage again. I think we can have relationships and get very close.
But you don't want for company.
No, I'm...
So from being the boy in goal, hurling himself around in the mud just to show that he was really taking part, Frank Spencer hurling himself down the stairs and out of windows, what a life. The people you've worked with, people like John Lennon, Barbara Streisand, and we'll speak in a moment about a very close friend, John Barry, but this incredible world you inhabited, what do you learned from it, Michael, being with these people?
You learn from people like Gene Kelly. They change your life. His influence made me, I suppose, want to be as good as I could be. His professional influence and his attitude. He'd come up on a Sunday. I was then married. We lived in Bel Air for 6 months in Los Angeles, and he would come up from Beverly Hills and, hey kid, I got an idea. You doing anything? I said, no, Gene, no. He said, can I come up? I said, sure. So he'd come up, get out of the car, run in. He said, now listen, in that scene in the hay store, he said, you come in, you go, out there, there's a whirl, and the arm shoots out. He said, let me just see you do that. And I said, out there. He said, no, it's out there. And he was into a dance routine. The energy you watch come from his feet and through his body, and you watch any movie with Gene Kelly in it, his whole body was that character. We have to retain a childlike energy, and it's not childish, it's a childlike energy for this business. You do.
we come to your last choice, and unfortunately end on a bit of a poignant note, because this was a person, a very, very close friend of yours, and we lost him relatively recently.
Yes, John Barry, he gave me my first opportunity. I knew him before this. We were great friends in the 60s and introduced him to a couple of his former wives. Dear John. I'm sure that's where that saying started. But he was such a character. From the north, wrote the most beautiful, wrote all the Bond music, of course, and Born Free, and he was going to do, he'd written, I think, Passion Flower Hotel, I think was a musical he'd done in the 60s, and then we became great friends, and he suddenly said, one night, we'd be at the Arethusa, an Italian restaurant that I think Andrew Lloyd would have approved of, but we were there most evenings with an Italian antique dealer called George Ciancimino, designer, and we the three of us with our wives would be there having wonderful times, and he had this idea of doing Billy Liar as a musical, and Don Black was doing the lyrics, and they put it together, and cut a long story short, we did it at Drury Lane, and it ran for 2 years, and it was the biggest successful British musical since Oliver, and we had the most amazing time doing that. So he became a close friend for many, many years. And when I went to Vegas about, I don't know how many years ago now, it was about 12, 14 years ago, I was in Vegas, and he wrote a beautiful piece of music for a film called Somewhere in Time. And he allowed lyrics to be written for that song. And I sang that song to open Effects, which opened the MGM Grand as a show. But that piece of music is so poignant and so utterly beautiful, and always will forever remind me of John.
Nick Raine and the City of Prague Philharmonic Orchestra with the main theme from Somewhere in Time by the late John Barry, a good friend and supporter of my guest tonight, Michael Crawford, who will now be appearing as the Wizard in The Wizard of Oz at the London Palladium until February the 5th.